Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast. Traders, looking at the DXY first. On the weekly time frame here, we are pushing so close to this previous high from back in August 2023. And to me, it looks like we will be going through there here with no problem. I did expect to see some hesitation around this area here, and I was a little surprised to see such a sharp move above it. What I think we could see as we approach this high is a clean break of the high, and then maybe followed by a couple weeks of downward pressure to kind of, fake everyone out here to think that this was a breakout trap or something. But eventually I think we will be going up. And where do I think we're going up to? We have talked about it before. I think we are going to be pushing to this weekly area of supply. More importantly, it is a monthly area of supply that you can see on the chart right now. That is where I think we are headed, to that monthly supply zone. What's going to take place at that monthly weekly supply? I personally think we will be probably reacting off of it to the downside. That's just my opinion. We will talk about it when we get there, so make sure to subscribe for those future forecasts. So in the weekly time frame, it is looking strong, although I think we could hesitate here a bit. Like I said, kind of fake everyone out here and pull back for maybe a couple weeks or something, or maybe even for the rest of the year. But on the lower time frames, right, on the 1 hour chart, my bottom right screen, the trends are looking really, really strong. We have a pretty aggressive trend line right now on the 4 hour time frame, and we have a supply zone at 106.73 from way back here. It is currently being respected at this time. But if you look, we have a beautiful 4 hour upward trend line. It is getting aggressive, but if you look here, we touched it again and respected it beautifully. So as long as this trend line's holding, I'm going to be bullish on the dollar. If we do break above this supply zone here, any demand zone there, okay, then at that point, that could be an area where you could see a pullback to that demand zone and then continue to rally up on the dollar. So what you need to watch out for your trading to judge the dollar and where it's headed on all the pairs, we have to be focused on this 1 hour upward trend line to see if this supply gets removed and to see if there's any demand zones that are created on the way up. But in the meantime, guys, I am bullish on the dollar, especially if you are day trading. I would be personally looking for longs on the dollar, but you guys know, in these forecasts, you've been following me for a while, I like to talk about both sides, right? I like to point out, if you're bearish, this is the supply zone I'd be shorting at, and if you're bullish, this is the demand zone I'd be looking for longs at. I like to point out both sides. That's just how I do my analysis. So throughout this video, I will be pointing out both long and short potentials, but overall, I am bullish on the dollar until we can break this high, and at that point, I think we will probably kind of pull back just a little bit on the DXY. On to the forecast for the Euro USD. On the daily chart here, you can see pretty decent looking daily downward trend line. So I will say, as a swing trading perspective, as long as this daily downward trend line's being respected, I'm going to be bearish on the Euro US dollar. So make sure you draw this trend line from this point to this point, as it is the trend line that will be holding up price, in my opinion. So again, if we respect it, I'm going to be bearish. If we break above it, leaving us at the demand zone, then at that point we have to kind of change our bias, and we can maybe even get in long at that daily zone. But in the meantime, I am going to be remaining bearish on the Euro US dollar. On the 1 hour time frame, we did have a little bit of a hiccup here for shorts as we broke above the trend line here, and we're kind of basing out here. I would say that this is pretty much an overall range in the 1 hour time frame, so it's not the most ideal time to be trading the euro. However, if we do get a pullback up to this 1 hour supply zone at 1.06, it could be a good area to look for a short with a stop loss above and take profit down below. And as always, if you don't feel comfortable with just taking the trade like that, you could look for confirmation side of this area as well. And confirmation means you wait for this zone to be contacted, you then go to an entry time frame, which in this instance on the 1 hour chart, it will be a 5-minute time frame. And you basically look for 5-minute demand zones to be removed and 5-minute supply zones to be formed to look for shorts off of, to kind of confirm your entry on a day trading time frame. So have this 1 hour area of supply on your charts. And also, I want you guys to, just like on the dollar, I want you guys to monitor this 4 hour downward trend line here as well. It is currently being respected. I don't really love this though. We're so close to breaking it, in my opinion. But if we do break below this low here in this demand zone here, I think looking for 15-minute time frame shorts are going to be good to continue to trade to the downside. So overall, definitely good for day trading shorts here on the Euro US dollar. So watch the 4 hour downward trend line and watch that 1 hour area of supply at 1.06 that I just pointed out on the Euro US dollar. And if we really start to pull back, then we have to monitor the daily chart. But overall, all shorts are going to be with the overall daily trend. So that is what is most important here on the Euro US dollar. On to the forecast for gold. Look at the pullback we are getting here on gold. If you're on a 1 minute time frame or all the day trading time frame, even a 1 hour time frame, this here might look like the sky is falling, but when we zoom out, this is a weekly chart. Look at the overall trend we have. This is nothing. This is what I like to call a healthy pullback in an overall trend. And honestly, I don't ever like to say that a pullback is due in an upward trend. But I mean, look at here. We are due for a couple red weeks that are significant in my opinion on gold. And I will say it's even possible we do retrace down to 22.24, down to this rally-based rally weekly demand zone. And I welcome a pullback down to there. I would absolutely love to get that pullback down to that weekly zone to get in long down there. So that is the best case scenario for us swing traders. On a daily time frame here, you can see we actually broke this daily zone. That's fine. We have level on top of level, and we have a daily zone right here at 25.29. So that is our nearest target for shorts. We definitely could react off of that daily zone there. And if you want to trade at that daily zone, how do we go about do that? Well, once that daily zone is hit, we'll most likely have a new trend line here in the 1 hour time frame. And once the daily zone's hit, then we could look for a break of that trend line with a demand zone formed, hopefully, and look for longs off that 1 hour demand zone, basically waiting for a change of character. But on the 1 hour time frame here, we clearly are going sideways. We had a demand zone formed. Why is this a demand zone? Because we had a downward trend line that was broken, and the demand zone is currently holding up price. This would not have been a trade, in my opinion. Just want to make that very clear. But it is the zone that is currently holding up price. So for shorts, we need to wait for this demand zone to be removed on the 1 hour time frame. Any 1 hour supplies on there, we could look to trade in short. And the other option for shorts is, since we have a pretty nice looking 4 hour downward trend line, we could be looking for day trading shorts on a 15-minute time frame. And if you guys are liking this video so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel. All support is really appreciated. So you could also wait for a pullback up to the 4 hour supply zone at 26.02. I think it's a good area to look for a short trade. You could take a short with a stop loss above and a take profit below. But I want to make something very clear. Let's say price pushes down here first. We contact this daily zone that's down here, and then we push up to this 4 hour supply zone. It becomes lower odds because we now have a daily zone that is in control, guys. That's something that's very important to remember. So it's still a good supply zone no matter what. We could see a move off of it to the downside. And another possibility, since on the weekly chart, just a reminder, I think it's possible we do retrace, get a very deep pullback down to 22.24. I think it's possible we do maybe see a move from demand to supply to the daily chart, and then that daily supply zone, it's a pretty big supply zone compared to a 4 hour or 1 hour chart. I think this supply zone could be used to fuel for that bigger push down to that weekly area of demand. So it's just something else to consider. So in the meantime, we could be trading from demand to supply, something like that. But in the nearest term, we still have profit margin down to daily demand. So shorts are still going to be fine. It's a little bit risky as we do approach this daily zone. So we have to be careful. It might be time to take profit a little bit quicker on your shorts, unless we can get a pullback up to the daily supply where we can get a massive swing trade potentially. But remember, all shorts are going to be counter trend. It doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It just means that it's counter trend. It might be best to, take profit a little bit earlier. So to summarize, 4 hour downward trend line, we could be looking for shorts to trade down to 25.29. We also have the 4 hour supply above we could look for shorts off of, and with profit margin down to the daily demand. And then at that point, at that daily zone, you could be trying out longs to potentially trade up to the daily supply zone on gold. All right, on to the forecast for the USDJPY. I'm pretty excited about this chart at this time. You guys know from down here, as we started to push up, I was talking about the long-term profit margin was up to this drop-based drop supply zone on the weekly chart at 156.07. We have finally contacted this weekly supply, and we are already getting a reaction off of it to the downside. So how do we go about and trade this? I know nobody really is going to take a short with a stop loss above a weekly supply zone. I know that's not going to happen. So how do we trade this? Let me show you. So very classic confirmation entry potentially for me here. And I wanted to wait to do this during this daily market breakdown video, during this weekly forecast. So we have a upward trend line on the daily, or on the 4 hour time frame. We had a beautiful rally-based rally 4 hour demand zone, and it was just removed today at the time of recording this video. So now that this 4 hour demand zone is removed, we now have a 4 hour area of supply above. So nice little supply zone at 155.19. If you want, you could also draw the origin of the move supply zone as well. And I don't like that this 4-hour trend line is being respected still. That kind of makes me a little bit nervous about, shorting at these supply zones. But we did remove a significant demand zone that did remove a supply zone. So it is decent in my opinion. The best case scenario is we break below the trend line, we close below it, and then we get a pullback up to this drop supply zone short to look for a short off of at 155.19. That is the best case scenario by also removing the trend line. The trend line does not need to be removed for confirmation. It just makes it a higher odds trading situation. Just want to make that very clear. So these are two good supply zones to try out a short trade with the weekly supply zone in control. This is a classic confirmation model. So this is our nearest supply zone at 155.19. If that one breaks, okay, at 156.22, we also have a supply zone that was kind of the origin of this entire move to the downside. So two supply zones to trade. Let's say this one breaks, we take a loss, we're down 1%. Let's say this one works, you get a 3-to-1 trade, now you're up 2%. It's all about risk, reward, and probabilities, guys. Which one of these zones is going to work? I don't know. I have no idea. They both might fail, and then maybe those two fail. We get another similar trading setup, and we win that one, 3-to-1, take profit. Now we're only up 1%. Let's say you take 3 losses in a row and then a winner, you're break even. So it's all a probabilities game. These are two decent areas of supply. Again, I want to see this trend line removed here. I think it'd be much better, but it's not required. So we still have a trend to the upside on the 4-hour time frame, but honestly, like I said, with that weekly area of supply coming in control, we're already seeing a move off of it. It's looking pretty good. So have those two 4-hour supply zones on your charts on the USD yen. And I think it's worth the risk, in my opinion. None of this is financial advice. I want to make that very, very clear. But this is a classic confirmation entry model as we have a weekly supply zone that is in control here on the USDJPY. On to the forecast for the GBPUSD. In the comments down below, I want to know what your thoughts here are on the pound. Let me know. And honestly, I'm a little shocked, a little disappointed. We broke this weekly demand zone, and I'm a little shocked. It was a beautiful drop-based rally demand zone. I won't lie to you guys. I was calling out this weekly zone. I thought it was a great area to look for longs off of. We didn't really get an entry, fortunately, so that's good. But I'm a little surprised. It was respected here with 2 weeks there. But eventually we ended up just blasting through the zone. But that's okay. We still have an upward trend line here. So that is definitely important. The trend line is still holding. How do we go about and trade the GBPUSD at this time? There's a couple options. I don't really mind looking for shorts at this time, especially with that weekly zone removed. So on the 1-hour time frame, you can see we have a beautiful 1-hour downward trend line. So as long as this downward trend line is holding, 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be appropriate on the GBPUSD. And if we do get a pullback up to this 4-hour supply, let me just extend this trend line. If we do get a pullback up to that 4-hour supply, nice little drop-based drop at 1.279. I think it's a decent area to look for shorts at, and obviously you could look for a confirmation on a day trading time frame in there as well. And as long as this downward trend line is holding on the 4-hour time frame, 15-minute time frame shorts are going to be good as well. So it is shorts all the way here on the pound, especially with these downward trends holding and being respected. I think it's shorts all the way. Wait for the 4-hour supply zone to get a pullback into there if you don't feel safe just trading outside the zone. But with very nice 1-hour downward trend lines and things like that, I think shorts are going to be fine, especially if you're trading a 15-minute or a 5-minute time frame. But be careful on the weekly chart. We still have an upward trend line here that's being respected, so we could kind of see a decent bounce off the trend line, but maybe that bounce will just be fuel to push up to the 4-hour supply, where we can then get in short on the British pound. On to the forecast for the USDCAD on a weekly chart. Beautiful weekly trend to the upside. We are pushing so close to break this weekly supply. It's not really even on my radar anymore. I think it's going to break. I think it's perfectly fine to be looking for longs. Onto the daily chart here, it is possible we do retrace down to this daily zone at 1.39. This could be a good area to get a swing trade in. It'd be a good area to get a day trade in as well, to turn it into a swing trade with like 25% of your position or something like that. So I just wanted to point out this daily chart to say it is possible we do get a retracement to get back to that daily zone to fuel for a bigger move up. Just want to be clear on that. On the 4-hour time frame, we pointed out this 4-hour demand zone, drop-based rally demand zone trade. Beautiful setup from that zone. Almost no drawdown at all. 5-to-1 achieved, and this was called out in the daily market breakdown videos for all of the members. If you want to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership for exclusive access to our daily market breakdown videos and catch trades like these. Plus, dive deep with our full-length forecast covering 26 plus markets, our interactive Sunday Zoom sessions, and personal homework to sharpen your strategy. And you'll also join our private Discord group for direct access to me and unlock a complete library of A to Z video lessons to master supply and demand trading. Don't miss out. Let's level up your trading. Links are in the description down below. So as far as trading the USDCAD goes now, we have pretty steep price action. The trend line isn't even really relevant over here at this time, so I'm going to delete it. But honestly, as long as this momentum is holding, you could be looking for longs on the day trading timeframes. We do have an updated trend line here though on the 1 hour time frame, so this might be better to judge your trades off of this 1 hour upward trend line. So monitor this 1 hour trend line I just drew. Draw it on your charts, copy my charts. All the members actually get a copy of my chart for their own personal use. Beautiful trend line to the upside. So monitor this trend line. If the trend line's holding and you see a 5-minute time frame setup, whether it's a demand zone, whether you trade support and resistance, whether you trade chart patterns, as long as this trend line's holding, guys, you should be looking for longs, in my opinion. That would be the best case scenario. Let's say we break the 1 hour trend line, boom, like that. Then at that point, that will be a sign that we will be retracing back down to that daily demand zone. That's why that 1 hour trend line is going to be important. Monitor that, trade along with it until it breaks, and at that point, we're probably going to get a pullback down to the daily zone. Alrighty, on to the forecast for the AUDUSD on the daily chart here. Beautiful downward trend on the daily chart. It's not the best trend I've ever seen. It's pretty clean looking, but it's so close to momentum. But obviously the trends are down, and we should be looking for shorts on the Aussie, especially based off of that daily chart. And this is a pretty simple analysis. I'm going to pop over to the weekly chart here. We are into a weekly zone. It's just not really relevant. Not only did we test it once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. Look how deep we tested it. We actually technically broke above it, below it. I'm not going to call that removed based on reasons I'm not going to get into, but it's not really relevant in my opinion. So to be very clear, this is a pretty simple and straightforward analysis here on the Aussie. Not only are the higher time frame trends with us, so shorts are good. We also have a 1 hour downward trend line as well. Trend, not a trend line. But as long as this trend is holding, especially if the demand zone starts to get removed, we could be looking for shorts on a 5-minute time frame. I think that's going to be your best case scenario here. As far as 1 hour zones go, we have 2 options. We can wait for a pullback up to this 1 hour supply at 0.652, get a move off that supply zone. I think it's a good area to look for shorts. You could look for day trading shorts in there as well for confirmation. That is one option for shorts as far as a 1 hour zone goes. The other option is, let's say we remove that area of demand, any 1 hour supply zone there, we could look for shorts off of like that. So to recap, wait for a supply zone there to look for shorts, or wait for a new one to be formed by removing that demand zone there on the 1 hour time frame here on the Aussie US dollar. And of course, 5-minute time frame shorts are going to be good as well, because it's all signs are pointing to the downside here on the Aussie US dollar. On to the forecast for the USDCHF, the Swiss franc. We did, in fact, get that pullback, like I said, was possible up to the weekly supply at 0.883. This could be a great area for a potential swing trade. We did push in about 60% of the way into the zone. That's okay. It's not too concerning. A very aggressive push though. So how do we trade this? We want to be looking for a confirmation trade. So what I'm going to be looking for here is on this 4 hour time frame, we have a 4 hour trend to the upside currently being respected very well. Basically, for confirmation, we need to see a break of this downward or this upward trend line. If there is a supply zone here that's very clear, we could then look for a short trade off of it as a confirmation trade with at least profit margin down to this 4 hour demand zone at 0.86. That is what you could be doing on the 4 hour time frame. If you're bullish and you think, hey, I don't even think this weekly supply zone is going to hold, that's fine. I don't really like that concept because I prefer to use higher time frame analysis, and right now a higher time frame supply is in control. But if you want to get in long, as long as this trend line is holding, 15-minute time frame longs are going to be completely fine if you are bullish. Me personally, I would rather just wait for this trend line to be removed, hopefully leaving us with a supply zone confirmation trade on the USDCHF. A little bit more riskier setup would be the removal of this 1 hour upward trend line. It's similar to the 4 hour chart, but let's say the 1 hour trend line gets removed, leaving us with a 1 hour supply zone there. You could look for shorts off of it. It's just a little bit more aggressive rather than waiting for that 4 hour trend line break. If you are bullish as well, and you don't feel like day trading, there is a demand zone down below at 0.88 on the 1 hour time frame. That could be your pullback entry with maybe you think everyone's going to be trading this trend line. Boom, pushes price down, everyone stopped out, you buy right into demand, and then we get a trade off of it like that. If that's your idea, I think that's our nearest area for potential longs here in the USD Swiss. So a little tricky right now with the weekly supply and control for longs, but I don't really mind that setup. I do prefer the shorts. But if I always like to point out both sides, if you absolutely have to get in long, that is really the only area I would feel comfortable getting in long to increase my odds of trading. But right now, guys, weekly supply zones and control, we kind of have to go with it. We did it on the pound for the last couple weeks. It did fill. So it's not, I'm just being very honest and upfront with you guys. The supply zone absolutely could break. But when the supply zone on a weekly chart comes in control, we definitely have to respect that, in my opinion. Doesn't mean we're going to get a massive move down off the supply, but it definitely could mean we start to see these trend lines break, and we could potentially get a potential short trade here on the USD Swiss franc. Last but not least, we're on to crude oil, and make sure you guys check out my Stoic Trading Psychology podcast, anywhere you get your podcast from. Check it out. If you guys want to be on the podcast as well, let me know in the comments down below. Weekly chart on the crude oil chart, we have a beautiful weekly downward trend, so we definitely want to be favoring shorts in my opinion. On the daily time frame, we had this daily supply up above. We still do. It is above this clear area of resistance. I think it's a great area to get a swing trade from. Probably not going to get there next week. I want to make that very clear. But if we do in fact pull up to there at 74.70, I think it's a great area to get a swing trading short from. But honestly, at this point, it's shorts all the way. Couple options here. On the 1 hour time frame, we have a beautiful 1 hour downward trend line. So as long as this downward trend line is holding, 5 minute time frame shorts are going to be completely fine. So monitor this trend line. If it's holding, look for shorts on a 5 minute time frame. Doesn't matter what strategy you trade, you should at least be looking at the trends and the trend lines and trade accordingly. I don't care if you guys don't want to trade supply and demand. That's fine. But definitely have that trend line in the chart to know which direction to be trading in. Let's say that trend line is broken and then we push up to this 4 hour supply zone up at 70.30. I think it's a great area to get a swing trade from. So that's the nearest 4 hour supply zone that I would be looking for shorts off of. It is responsible for not only removing a proven area of demand here, but also a proven area of demand down here. These were demand zones that I pointed out in the daily market breakdown videos. Two beautiful setups off of those demand zones. So we've been absolutely killing it on crude oil. And hopefully we can get a pullback up to that 4 hour supply zone and get a nice move off of there like that. And also the downward trend line's holding. So look, it's shorts all the way, whether you want to wait for a pullback up to the 4 hour supply zone, whether you want to just trade short as long as this 1 hour trend line's holding, that's fine. It's shorts all the way. We have a weekly downward trend, a 4 hour downward trend, and a 1 hour downward trend as well. So again, it's shorts all the way, whether you're the 4 hour supply zone, day trading time frames, whatever you want to do, it's shorts on crude oil. If you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.